Welcome everyone, my name is WirthyPickle, and this is your channel for all things Starfield. Today, I want to do something a little bit different than my other videos. Yesterday, I was kind of sitting around and I was thinking about what has me so excited to actually play Starfield, and it got me thinking about kind of the game mechanics or feature that get me most excited, and I wrote them down, and I want to share my thoughts with you on the top 5 features that have me so excited to play Starfield. Again, this is going to be a little bit different than my normal breakdown videos, so let me know if you want more videos like this, but I am pretty confident that you're going to be surprised by the 4th feature I mentioned, even though it's one of the biggest, most important mechanics that Bethesda is known for in RPGs, yet no one's talking about it. Before we jump into the first feature though, I do want to announce that I just launched a Patreon for the channel. So if you'd like to support this channel further or just want some access to exclusive content or features, you can find the link down below in the description. Alright, with that taken care of, let's go ahead and jump right into the first feature, and it comes without surprise. I'm really excited for the settlement building system. And there's a lot of different aspects to the settlement building. I'm not just talking about setting up a factory or a mine like we saw in the showcase, but there's a lot to this. Of course, I want to find a really pretty planet and set up a home on this planet. Having a place to kind of bunker down, call it my own. I can even have like a weapon stash or an armory for all of the rare weapons that I find. I'm super excited to do that, as well as the idea of having a family. And I'm joining this in with settlement building because I'm assuming we can have a family. We can have romances. There's romances in the game. Now, whether or not we can adopt kids like in Skyrim, we don't really know. I really hope so. You know, there's concept art with children walking around like a spaceship. And I really hope that we can set up a family, assign them to a certain settlement so we can call that place home. You know, that's where we have our family, that's where we have our armory and all the cool stuff. But also the idea of kind of a city builder, setting up multiple settlements across multiple planets that are mining different materials, and also having a totally separate area for manufacturing items. I talked about this a bit in my settlement building guide or breakdown video. If you haven't seen that, check it out. I'll link it up on the top here. But I'm really excited for the idea of mining a bunch of materials, setting up trade routes so they ship to a single place that's going to be like a manufacturing center where they manufacture items that I can then sell for a lot of money. That has me super excited. Building up kind of an empire, having a bunch of employees, and they're making me money passively as I'm going out just kind of screwing around collecting sandwiches or whatever I decide to do. That has me really, really excited. And then at the end of it, then I can go home to possibly my family up on a pretty paradise planet that has a beachfront, you know, whatever, a really pretty area with a nice house, and I can have all the luxury items I want because I'm rich because of my settlements and my slaves and all the people working on manufacturing and mining everything. Now, I know if I don't mention it here, there's going to be a lot of angry people in the comments, so I do want to mention there's a lot of people out there in the community that are concerned about how settlement building is actually going to work when we get the game. A lot of people are concerned that it's going to be surface level, it's not going to be as in-depth as they make it out to be in the showcase, and while I do think that it's a perfectly valid concern, I am really confident that it's going to work out well. And I say that because a large portion of the showcase was dedicated to settlement building. I don't think that they would focus so much on the single feature of the game if it was that surface level. It would create a lot of not so happy fans of Bethesda if they spent about 20 minutes on this showcase talking about settlements, and then when we actually get the game, there's not that many features to it. So I am pretty confident that there is going to be a lot of features to this, that we can spend a lot of time on this settlement building, and that we can have a lot of fun doing it too, that we'll have a lot of creativity to it. But again, like I said, I do think it's a very valid concern. This game, its scope is massive. There's a lot of things that Bethesda is covering in Starfield, and so if they're really branching out and doing this many features, you know, how in-depth is every feature or game mechanic going to be? I will remind you guys, they have spent years on this game. If I remember correctly, they should be on about 5 years on this game because they did extend the deadline by about 2 years. 5 years is a long time to work on an RPG. So I am pretty confident that it's going to be in depth. We won't really know until we see it, but I'm really excited to dive into the settlement building and start my slave empire. Now, before we move on to the second feature that has me so excited for Starfield, I do want to remind you guys, if you aren't subscribed already, please subscribe to the channel. I'm coming out with videos very frequently about Starfield, and when the game comes out, I'll be doing some how-to tutorials and kind of feature breakdowns on that. As well as leave a like on the video if you are enjoying it so far. It means a lot more to me than you can imagine. But with all that being said, let's move on. Now, the second feature that I'm really excited for and that really captivated me in the showcase is revolving the ship. And I'm going to take a little bit different of a perspective on this than I think most YouTubers or people in the community are talking about. Most people are really excited for the ship builder and customizing and just making a massive ship that's going to overpower and kind of conquer everything. That's not what has me excited with the ship or the starship. While I think it'll be kind of fun, what really has me excited is just the concept of the ship itself. And what I mean by that is when I think back to Skyrim, which is my all-time favorite game, or even Fallout 4, it always felt like my home was too far away. You know, you could always fast travel there or just kind of run back or travel there, but it always felt like it was kind of far away. It was taking a trip out of whatever adventure I was doing or whatever quest, and it was a trip back to wherever my house was. And even with settlement building, I'm excited to have a stationary home on a planet where I have my family and things like that I just mentioned. But the whole concept of the ship, and I think what Bethesda is really trying to capture with the ship, is having a home on the go. It doesn't matter where you are. You could be on a barren moon, just mining for material, or you could be on a massive adventure with Constellation and trying to figure out the story of the galaxy or what's really out there. And you have your home right there with you, right next to you, no matter where you go. And again, they really captured the idea of having a home on the go. You know, you've got a bed on there, you have a kitchen, you have a crew, you have crafting and research stations and all this stuff. You really don't even have to build a house. And they mentioned this in the showcase, or I believe it was actually a question and answer that Todd Howard did, but you don't have to do the settlement building. And I think you can kind of sidestep that whole feature of the game because you have the ship. You have your house, you have a place to store all your weapons, or if you want to collect a bunch of random crap, you can have a whole cargo space on the ship just to place all of your stuff. And I think that's just a beautiful concept, and that's what has me so excited, is the whole role-playing aspect of having this ship with me, having my friends, my crew, you know, possibly my family on this ship with me as I'm adventuring around the galaxy. The third aspect of the game that really has me just hyped to get my hands on the game is the random encounters. And that's what Bethesda is so known for in their RPGs, is just the random stuff that happens to you while you're adventuring, or you could be doing the main story and some random person runs up to you and they're talking about how they're about to die and they need your help and you got to save their village. And then you go on this whole side tangent of saving these people or finding this or helping these people out here. And you just get so distracted, and I love it. My ADHD just loves it. I can't just focus on the main story and the idea of trying to do that main story. But there's other people out there that they have their own families, they have their lives, and you're just a little part of this whole world, or I guess this whole galaxy. You're just this single person, and these other people have their own lives that are going on. And these random encounters really encapsulate the idea that you're not the only one in the galaxy. You're not the only one adventuring around that has their own life. I think the showcase really showed what Bethesda is so good at. You know, they showed the random people that were flying in space that had no idea that other people had left Earth. And they were just so shocked to see you walking through, you know, their front door. And this is really what Bethesda does right. I think back to my playthroughs of Skyrim, and I think I've only completed the main mission once or twice, and I've got like 1,000 hours in that game. It really goes to show that the bulk of their games and what they're good at isn't the main story. The main story can be good, and just based on what they've showed us with the showcase, it looks like the main story is going to be fantastic. But even if it's not, that's not what the game is about. The game is about doing whatever the heck you want, and you are going to experience these random, bizarre things that just capture your attention for 2-3 hours, maybe 20 minutes, and whatever it may be, you'll love it. And a lot of people are concerned that it is going to be kind of repetitive. People are concerned about the procedural generation and the randomization of what happens to you. But again, if you've played a Bethesda game before, that's always been the case. Now, this is on a much grander scale, the random stuff that can happen, and the procedural generation of the things and events and places around you. But Bethesda is really, really good at this. And if anyone can do it right, it is them. And I'm really excited to just kind of jump in there and see what type of encounters that we can come across. And it's also going to be very interesting if there are just thousands or hundreds of these different random encounters. It's inevitable that a lot of you are going to jump on YouTube or find a Reddit forum, and people are going to be talking about these random encounters where they got this awesome item or weapon, and you're going to try to seek out that random encounter, but you may not ever get it. You could play 1,000 hours in the game and you may not see everything. And while me as a completionist, that kind of hurts me. I think it's going to work very, very well. Unfortunately, with a lot of these RPG games, you see all these tutorials on YouTube that kind of showcase all of the cool stuff in the game, and it almost ruins the magic or the fun of the RPG. And I think having all of these random encounters are really going to help that in this game, because it's going to be near impossible to have a very similar experience to someone else or your favorite YouTuber. If I do a full playthrough on this YouTube channel, start to finish of the entire main story, and I do just a couple random encounters, my experience is going to be so different than what you experience. Even if you just make a couple different decisions, or even if you don't make any different decisions, the things you'll encounter or the random people that will talk with you are going to be so vastly different than what I experience, and that makes the replayability of this game just so replayable. And I'm really excited for that. Just putting hours and hours into this game and not having to worry about, the repetitiveness of the game. All right, that's enough of that though. To move on to my fourth feature, and I mentioned in the intro that this may be a little bit surprising, even though it totally shouldn't be, and that is discovering the lore of Starfield. Bethesda is so good at creating an entire universe around their games, not just the main story or maybe a couple side quests, but there is an underlying lore. There is a history. There is a story behind everything. And they mentioned this before they even had a grand showcase. They had a couple question and answers, and Todd Howard talked about this, but he was like, when we create a new universe or a new game, we have to figure out everything. What's the history? What stories are the kids told? Things like that is going to be so interesting in this game, and it's all going to be brand new. It's not like the Elder Scrolls. It's not like Fallout, where there's some history already underneath them, where there's already some lore that they have to obey. This is a big open canvas that we know almost nothing about. We know some hints at the main story in the rings and discovering what else is out there. We have an idea that Earth isn't habitable anymore and people left the planet, but that's about all we know. And if we know Bethesda, we know there's going to be a lot of history, a lot of lore to uncover, and I'm really excited to get the bigger grand story of what happened to Earth. Why did they leave? What's out there? Are there intelligent aliens out there? Why are all these people kind of sectioned off? How did all these factions come into play? What are the stories of the factions? What about the average person that doesn't really claim to be part of a faction, but they just have a random house on a random planet because they wanted to be separated from the big cities? Like, what are the stories to be told? And I think this is something that the community isn't really talking about. They're talking about the main story or what the big purpose of the game may be, but no one's talking about the overarching story or the lore under Starfield. And that's going to be what captures so many people for so long with this game, that's going to create so much replayability. It's like Skyrim. People are still finding stuff about that. Same with Fallout 4. Like, there's so many hidden notes and hidden stories throughout the entire game. And I'm really excited to see what I can find and what other people find in the community, and really digging deep into what's out there and what this game has to offer. All right, now on to the final feature that has me so excited to play Starfield, and that is mods. I'd be cracked out on Aurora if I didn't mention mods, even though we haven't had really any mods formally announced yet for Starfield, and we don't know when mods will be coming to console. They haven't said anything about that. But I have to mention mods because that is the essence of what Bethesda games are, is having the mod capabilities of really making the game whatever you want it to be. And I know that's kind of aside from the vanilla game of Starfield, and I know that's not going to be a standard feature. There's not going to be a whole lot of mods right when the game comes out, but I still have to mention it because that is what I'm really excited for. And this is my top 5. It doesn't have to be your top 5, but I'm really excited to see the mods that the community comes up with and they make, and they spend hours just developing this whole aspect of the game that wasn't there when the game first launched. Now, I do want to add too that Bethesda, to give them credit, they built this game to be a modder's paradise. There's all these planets that a lot of them are barren. There's a lot of empty space that modders can take a look at this game, and if they can think it up and the technology is there, they can do it. You know, they can put it in the game. You think of something like Fallout 4, for example. If there's a bunch of mods for that, they are kind of limited to the field of the game, which is just kind of the environment. Maybe they can add a section of the map a little bit farther north or a little bit further south, and they can add a section there. But Starfield has full planets that modders can take over and make their own for their own mod or their own mod pack. And that's just crazy. I don't think we can comprehend just how in depth Bethesda made their modding capabilities in this game. You can make whatever the heck you want, and I'll be able to play whatever the heck I want. Just as long as someone made the mod, I can play it. And I'm really excited to see what there is out there. And if I don't like a certain aspect of the game, boom, I can change it. Someone's going to come out with a mod to fix the problem, and I love that. All right, there you have it, my top 5 features or game mechanics that have me so excited to finally get my hands on Starfield and just plunge hours of my life into the game. I imagine my top 5 is going to be a bit different than yours, so let me know in the comments section what you guys think. What are your favorite features? What in the showcase or what they've talked about have you so invested in this game? Why are you even watching this video? I assume you're excited about something with Starfield, so let me know in the comments section. But until next time, stay worthy.